in terms of the plan or in terms of the intention, I think Jokowi is quite strong in directing Indonesian economy toward inclusive growth. For example, when he is explicitly wanting to reduce inequality as represented, for example, in the target in RPJMN or even in the budgetary target. So on paper, it's quite obvious that he is leading Indonesian economy toward, he wants to lead Indonesian economy toward more inclusive growth. However, we still yet to wait how it will be implemented. But there are some notes that I think important for the last 1 year. First is the inclusiveness of economic growth under Jokowi has been noted with the poverty reduction or increase in the poverty incidence. So it's not good in terms of the inclusiveness of growth, because economic growth necessarily has to be accompanied by poverty reduction, but not at least within 6 months after Jokowi's presidency. But this, and then the importance point as well is this, according to my opinion, this increase in the poverty incidence caused by various factors that could have been prevented through policies. For example, the price rise volatility could have been prevented by better management of price volatility or rise market operation, for example, or through opening import of rice. But also there are other policy failures in terms of the compensation. The Jokowi compensation for fuel subsidy reduction during the first 3 months of the government has been delayed. So during the first 3 months, basically the poor is not protected from the escalations of price rise. In terms of the social spending done by Jokowi, I think I may say correctly follow the success story of SBY. So he didn't really change much, but there are still room for improvement. For example, Jokowi could have made the KIP, Kartu Indonesia Pintar, more progressive by applying Kartu Jakarta Pintar, which has more money to spend. But he only changed the name of BSM to KIP, so with the same amount of redistributive power. And also, last thing but not least is Jokowi inclusive growth to the future. That prospect really depend on whether or not the infrastructure spending will have a characteristic of inequality reducing or inequality increasing. It depends on what type of the infrastructure and other thing that really characterize that aspect. First is he solve the problem of fuel subsidy issue. So he reallocated fuel subsidy toward other than consumption of the subsidy by the rich. So fuel subsidy has been regressive, and many government never even attempted something like what Jokowi did, which is abolishing it. And this has one benefit. First is now there is a potential big spending that can be directed toward more inequality reducing. Still potentials. So that's one big problem. So that's a potential to address the very problem of inequality in Indonesia. And the second one is infrastructure development. For the last few decades, Indonesian economy has been slowing down due to the lack of infrastructure investment, and this also solve this problem of infrastructure spending. So there are two important things I think that Jokowi contribute to the economic development. Jokowi, I think, is a figure where millions of Indonesia put a lot of hope. Yeah. So if you see the Time magazine, there's new hope. Yeah? So I think that's basically it. That should be an opportunity because of the background that is not coming from old school or old traditional political leaders. and also coming from humble background, and coming in the era where inequality is rising. So Jokowi then rise as a leader who people put very much hope that can addressing those problems. So this hope that that people put on him, I think I can see that as a strength. So Jokowi has that mandate, so they have strength. But that can be also a weakness, because if that hope is still too high, but the realization is not as expected, that can be backfire as also as weaknesses. And that coupled with another weaknesses, which is as a new guy, new kid on the block, for example, yeah. So he doesn't have much. Particularly, it is also coupled with bringing also new peoples in his cabinets. So that again can become an opportunity, that can become a risk, because we have to accept that there will be a transition time where they understand all very detailed aspect of the economy or even development that they manage. So we should anticipate that there will be the transition for them to learn first the detail of everything. So that can be a delay in the outcome of the realization of this hope, I think should be anticipated. So that I see that the weakness. But in general, overall, I think in the medium term, in the long-term future, I still have put hopes. The hope is still there. So because I can anticipate it. That's the cost that I have to pay, that we want something new. Learn. I think Jokowi should put more time to learn many things, because managing the national economy with this characteristic, geographical characteristic, is difficult. Different background, different culture, different ethnicity, different kind of problem. I think the level of the difficulties of this managing problem is different than managing Solo or managing DKI Jakarta. It's different level of playing field now. So to anticipate that, I think you have to should learn and learn fast. And one way of doing learning fast is by asking the right person. And by asking the right person is make sure that Jokowi get access to all school of thought in terms of economic policies, in terms of trade policies, in terms of the poverty reduction. So make sure that Jokowi listen all the school of thought, because not one single school of thought should be dominating the government policy. All school of thought has to be listened. And Jokowi is very pure, and because of that, it is very important that he understands all the school of thought in the government policy. Now I can see that there is a Jokowi seems not to learn all school of thought in the government policy. For example, whether or not food security has to be always been accompanied with food self-sufficiency. It's one school of thought. But there are other school of thought that think that food security does not necessarily mean that you have to limit import. That's another example. There are a lot of other examples. So I think that's what I suggest for Jokowi.